Welcome to OK Now What? I'm your host, Kate Gladden, episode 18. This is the show for people who know life doesn't happen to you. Life happens, and the impact it has is up to you. All right, beautiful people, you guys are in for a treat today. Welcome to the episode. I have one of the biggest legends I've come across in recent times. Thanks to Marcy Rader for connecting us. But I watched this amazing woman's TED Talk and was instantly like pumping along, fist pumping, like, yes, this is everything this world needs more of. And so it's my pleasure to introduce you today to the amazing Ali Ingersoll. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for having me. When I read your intro, I was thinking the same thing about you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And that's what I like, especially, women coming together and being an epitome of strength also.
Women supporting women, humans
Yeah.
supporting humans, really.
Yeah, definitely. So I purposely didn't say too much about your story because the way you unravel it and the way you tell it is so powerful. Like the story itself is powerful, and then all the lessons and messages that you share since that journey. And it's an ongoing journey, which I think is even more inspiring. You're living it every day.
Mm-hmm.
But before we kind of talk about where you're at now in life and that big journey, take me back because I know it was you were 27 years old, right? When your life changed.
Yes, it was when I
Yes.
took that really fun shallow water dive. I should have gone feet first. Next time I know better.
Yes. So we will get there, but I enjoyed hearing a little bit about your life prior because that was quite colorful too.
That's such an elegant way to put it. It is calm. All right. I have been able to cut my life to 2 minutes, 5 minutes, seven. So I will give a brief overview and the rest can be found on, well, my entire life is online because there's no topic off limit. I'm against my family's best wishes. So I grew up all over the world internationally. My dad is English, my mother is German. So we grew up on a very out island in the Bahamas where there's one dirt road. You had to build your own septic systems. I have two older brothers and they're mid to late 50s. There's myself at 41 and my older sister who's 43 this year. And we all grew up really separately in that we went to boarding schools with lots of Catholic nuns in Europe and New England where they were, allowed to beat you in the 90s. Yeah, I don't think that's legal today.
Yeah, I hope not.
And my dad always just wanted us to be really cultured. So we traveled so many different countries. So at an early age, I had a deep respect for cultural sensitivities and identities. I was always the minority actually growing up in life. And when I graduated high school, I was 16 years old in Connecticut or one of those states and somewhere in New England. I can't remember. I moved every 2 years of my life. So many schools.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go to college yet for the simple reason. I'm not sure if I should say this out loud. I wanted to drink. I wanted to be of drinking age. I did. And I wasn't going to be. So I took one of those old-fashioned globes, put my hand on it, spun it, and it landed on Beijing, China. So I saved all the money I had, threw on a backpack, told my parents I'm moving across the world. My dad said, great, pay for yourself and call us once a month that you're alive. We have 3 other children, so it's okay. It's a very English dry humor, right?
Yeah.
So I landed in China. I didn't speak a word. It was a terrifying time, but I was very stubborn. And I met an Italian kickboxing instructor who didn't speak English and I didn't speak Italian. And after the language of love only gets you so far at that age, and he was 10 years older than I was, I learned the language. I started to kickbox professionally around China.
Mm-hmm.
I was a food taster for a newspaper. So I learned Chinese quite quickly within about 6 months, quite fluent, which was very helpful because when you're young, you don't have those inhibitions. You don't care if people are correcting you when you speak. I was probably drinking half the time, so that probably helped. We traveled China together. We ended up in jail in northern China near the Mongolian border.
Jeez Louise.
Yep. I called my mom and I told her I'm going to jail. Give me 7 days to get out. Otherwise, call the State Department. And I got out. That's a long, twisty story of how.
Please make sure that's in the book. I need to.
It is in the book in full detail.
Great.
And then I left the boyfriend and I moved down to Southeast Asia for quite some time in Australia. A lot of my best friends are in Australia. I was in Broome and Darwin and the Gold Coast, so went all up and down. And I engaged in a lot of wilderness survival trips my whole life, from like 14, 13 until I was in my mid 20s, where I would went to a trip in the Kimberleys for 2.5 months with a National Outdoor Leadership School where you had to hike through, find your own food, hike to water sources every day. It was wonderful. So, and there's a reason for that story, which you'll see in a moment. So then I was dragged back to the United States to go to university. I spent 2 years in Los Angeles, major economics, while simultaneously living at the Playboy Mansion.
Oh,
Yeah, thinking to myself, that is not the best life choice, Ali. The problem was I was getting straight A's, and my dad said my only job in life, he would pay for school, so I was so grateful, was to get A's.
yeah.
He did not write a fine print contract. I found all the loopholes. So I transferred to Miami. I majored in entrepreneurship and business plan competitions. I drifted for quite a while. After college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I thought I was smarter than I was. I think young people are presented with too many choices and you get overwhelmed and you put your head in the sand and you don't know where to go. Eventually connected with the Rockefeller family, and worked in politics for a few years. I was quickly jaded by politics, by slimy politicians and strip
Yeah.
clubs. I'm going to leave it at that.
Oh gosh. I'd hate to say
And,
I'd
yeah.
like to say I'm surprised, but I'm not. But
Sadly, no. And I
yeah.
asked my dad, I said, Dad, I want to be a donor. He said, okay, why? I said, because I want to help people. Well, what do you want to do? I don't know yet. Well, you should work for yourself and make money. I said, that's great. So he said, why don't you become a technical analysis day trader in the futures market and currency market and stock market? I said, awesome. I don't know what that is, but that sounds great. So I sold everything I owned, $5,000 at the time, US dollars,
Yeah.
and I moved back to the Bahamas. And I was living there. We all have these little compound houses since we've had a place there now, 50 years.
Mhm.
And life was amazing. I did the hard work, 12 hours a day studying. I would talk to my dad about macroeconomics at nighttime and smoke cigars. And my mother would make 5-star meals and I would take care of the property. It was the best life. And then August 21st, 2010, I just about finished my trading course and I was ready to go. And I met some friends at a tiki hut bar on a beautiful Saturday, rocking it out, not drunk. I just want to point that out. I was not drunk.
Yeah.
And I took a shallow water dive and I just hit sand. And I remember every moment I was fully conscious. I couldn't move. And I was waiting to be saved. And there were so many thoughts flashing in my head at that moment. But because of my medic first aid training with all my wilderness survival trips, I knew I had broken my neck. And it took them about 30 seconds, a friend and my mom, to roll me over and physically save my life. So the next it took 22 hours to get from an out island all the way to Miami. Multiple medevac jets, walls of thunderstorms, turning back and forth. I had to direct my own medical care because there were no doctors on the island at
Oh
that
my
time.
gosh.
And I woke up and the doctor said to me after emergency surgery that you broke your, he said, you broke your neck. You're a C6 quadriplegic, paralyzed from the chest down with paralyzed hands. I call them my paws. They're my paws. They're very useful. And paralyzed triceps. So I have about 20% of functional muscles. And my dad said in the ICU, once I was off morphine, he said, you broke your body, not your brain. That was my TED talk. Get to work. He was serious. He brought my trading charts in and he literally put me to work. And so fast forward, I'm going to fast forward my life in of 7 years quite quickly.
Yeah.
It was quite literally hell, but I'm a very bouncy person. So I always find if 10 things happen in a day, I look at the 8 great ones that happen, not the 2 bad ones. And so I dealt with cervical cancer, pulmonary embolisms, osteoporosis, pressure sores, life-threatening spinal cysts. So all the details are in the book on that. And I developed a spinal cyst so severe that it was killing me. I had about 3 months to live and I had to move to China. It's a long story how we got there, but they have some of the best surgeons in the world. Moved to China, brushed up on my Chinese, had to translate my surgery for my dad, who's just a genius. It's irritating how smart he is. And so I practiced my neurosurgery on the plane over to China, memorize all the characters. It's a little terrifying knowing exactly how they're going to go into your spinal cord and slice you open from behind. And I woke up only on ibuprofen, not particularly great. So I thought I was still in surgery and I was intubated. I was screaming. They tied me down. Then my brother and dad found morphine, a cocktail of morphine, let's call it. And they overdosed me on morphine a few times. Then, yes, walls were melting, spiders, holding on to my brother, saved me. And then I joined a walking program where they got you up in a walking frame to push your body. There's a neuroscience theory called neuroplasticity. Neurons that wire together fire together, like use it or lose it kind of thing.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it didn't work. They broke my leg in 8 different locations. I was in bed for, oh gosh, I pretty much lived in and out of hospital for 7 straight years. And that particular stent was another 6 straight months. And I became practically suicidal. So I said I couldn't move, I couldn't talk, I couldn't think. And I told my family, I said, I will give myself 1 year. It was an experiment, actually, that the father of American psychology, William James, went on, which we can get into that another time. And I would take 100% responsibility of my own life. And if nothing changed, I wanted to die peacefully in the Alps of Switzerland legally. Half my family was on board. So I did. And the year passed, about 9 months, things got better. And then life was pretty for the next few years. It was pretty boring. I mean, they overdosed me on lithium a couple times for reduce my pain. That failed. But I mean, I was day trading. I was into quantum mechanics and particle physics, and I was learning. And I moved back to Raleigh. I moved to Raleigh, North Carolina in 2016 because my sister's here. She's a yoga and Pilates instructor. I didn't want to move here voluntarily, to be honest with you. I wanted to go back home to Miami or the Bahamas, but I
Hmm.
wasn't really accessible. And my family, they're near here. And when I touched down, I developed a pressure sore on like a bed sore. There's a lot of different names for it on my tailbone down to the bone. So that put me in bed for another entire year. But that's when my life started to really change for the better during this year in bed because I connected with the disability community and I started to get denied by health insurance in the United States. And I started to fight back because I am pleasantly persistent. No is a starting negotiation point in my life. I don't like no. There's always a way around no. And I started to win everything. And so I didn't realize what a need there was for this in the United States. Health equity, right? It's an issue with any country. And I partnered with so many organizations around the country and started speaking. And that work went national, and I participated in Miss Wheelchair America and won that for health equity efforts. We changed landmark legislation, a coalition of us for power seat elevators for power chairs in the US just last year it passed, which was amazing. And I just found, and throughout this, when I moved to Raleigh, I did find a husband. I
Oh,
start I started online dating. I have a really wacky life, no topics off limit. I wanted to explore sexuality and disability, and I wanted to write about it. That's how the Quirky Quad, my blog, started. It was just
I
about
didn't see
sex.
that. I didn't realize it was about your
Well,
disabled sex
the
life. So,
original tagline was a blog on sex, sass, and spinal cord injury adventure. It was about my dating life, and there were two ladybugs having sex. And I handed my card like 2 years later to a judge I was meeting for dinner, and I was like, "Oh my God, there's two ladybugs having sex on this card. Ali, you have to rebrand now." So I rebranded.
that's
And
so
it's now a
good.
blog on normalizing disability with dark humor and determination. So I went on these online dating experiments and I broke up with all the guys before one of my major surgeries, which was like 50-50 if I was going to live. They kill me a lot, doctors. It's like I'm the Energizer Bunny. I just keep coming back to life. It's
Didn't you say like
extraordinarily,
7 times or something? I think I read.
yes, 7 times. It's really hard to kill me. So I just keep bouncing back. I'm very, I'm like a little bunny and just keep hopping away. And so I stayed with this guy. It's a beautiful love story. He's a delightful human, but I turned what should have been a season into a lifetime. You know the expression, someone should be in your life a reason, a season, or a
Hmm.
lifetime. Yeah, I made that critical mistake. Anyway, 7 years later, we were married, just recently got divorced this past year. Super happy about it, dating a nice new guy now. So
Oh,
I write about my personal life and talk about that because everything's intersected together. And so over the last few years, I was day trading full time professionally, and I wanted to marry my two lives together. And how do you marry advocacy and business and entrepreneurship together? So I went on a Herculean mission. I became a disability strategy consultant. And so I have beautiful clients. 20% of my week is towards advocacy. And then I've been speaking for years. I just didn't realize you could be paid for it until about 2 years ago. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And I
good
love
for
to get
you.
on stage. I love
Yeah.
to talk. This is
Yeah.
awesome. I just like to do it with a lot of dark humor. Dark humor is a key cornerstone in everything in my life. And so over the last year, I have been building the back end, painstaking, beautiful business of keynote speaking and getting all those elements. And so that is, professionally advocacy. So a lot of people have like a separation of church and state with their personal and professional lives, but
Mm.
not me. So they're they intersect at every corner. And I learned something from everyone with different access needs and life. It doesn't matter our stories are what makes us really unique is our stories, but how do we come together authentically in kindness with emotional intelligence to move forward, whether you're burned out as an employee, whether you're a single mom and you can't get to work on time because your kid spilled coffee on your blouse, or you're working for organizational change, right? A lot of the principles I work towards, applied neuroscience meets dark humor, meets practical application. I love messages that can be applied across all sectors.
Yes.
So I think that's me in 10 minutes.
Impressive is an understatement, and inspiring and everything. And there's like so many little questions that were popping up in my mind, and no doubt listeners as they're listening along, just extraordinary. And I think what I want to just kind of rewind back to in all of this, because it's one thing to, you go through that horrific accident, you're paralyzed, you go through the healthcare, the surgeries, and then you're like, I'm done. But if things get better, one more year, I'll give it my all. You start to get better. You're like, okay. And then you get another bed sore and you're stuck in bed again. And you said like it started to change though, because you started reaching out to disabled communities and stuff. But what can you think of that moment where it shifted, where you went from maybe just like scrolling cat videos to like actually researching into online communities or something?
Funny story. I only started scrolling cat videos about 6 months ago. True story. Okay. I'm kind of obsessed. Food videos and cat videos. Literally, we had played a game at a bar a couple of weeks ago, and we all showed each other our Instagram like histories. And we're like, You really do look at cats and food, Ali. It's bizarre. I do. I actually remember the exact moment.
Okay.
I thought when I moved to Raleigh from China that I said after 5 years, my life simply had to get back to normal, right? Most people after tragic accidents take a year and they start living their lives. That was not my case. When I developed that pressure sore, I had the first surgery where they did something called a coccygectomy. Basically, they slice you up, saw down your tailbone, and stitch you back up.
Yeah.
It was an epic failure of a surgery. And the stitches opened up. And I went to the doctor, paid for an ambulance out of pocket, and I was on my belly. It was this exact moment. And he cut open. He goes, aha, I see what's wrong. I said, what's wrong? And he goes, well, I can feel your bone. What do you mean you can feel my bone? He said, yeah, I feel your tailbone. I said, you're in my body right now? Yeah. You're going to need this surgery, A, B, and C. You'll probably be in bed another 8 or 9 months. My heart sank. I didn't know how I was going to wake up the next morning. I got home and I knew I had a long road ahead of me. And I said, I can't be the only one going through this. I didn't have any community. And that's when I got on Facebook, this really amazing Facebook group. And I wrote my story and my messages, and I just got hundreds and hundreds of messages back. And it made me feel not so alone. I felt terrible for what everyone went through as well. But I knew that I had a community behind me. I think everything we do, we need people. I've always had my family. We're a clan, right? And I have good friends, but nobody could really empathize with what I was going. We can sympathize as humans, but unless we've been through it, that's challenging, right? And it was in that moment I said, okay, people have been doing this for decades and they're still living great lives. I can do it. And so that was it was a light bulb moment for me. And after that, the next morning I woke up and I said, if I'm going to be in bed for a year, I'm going to wake up, I'm going to have a schedule. I'm going to read, I'm going to day trade, I'm going to engage my mind. I'm going to connect with the disability community. I'm going to exercise from my hospital bed, and I'm going to get a therapist. I did love my therapist. Everyone should have one. It should be a life requirement. And now, yeah, it was within a 48-hour period, but that's my personality, though, the way I'm genetically wired. I think because I've had so much diversity in my life with respect to cultures and changes and moving, I'm used to things changing at a dime. Living in uncertainty and having to adapt to the unknown on a daily basis, I think prepared me. The life I was living prepared me for the life I didn't even see coming.
It's crazy. Like, when you look back and you can kind of start to connect
the dots
a little, or, choose to connect the dots and choose to tell your story in a way that empowers you. Like, what's the alternative of being a victim to everything that happens to you?
It's a good point. And you bring up, and the question would go to you too. Somebody asked me once, do you think everything happens for a reason? And a lot of people I talk to think it does. I don't. I think bad things happen to awesome people. And that's life. It's been that way for thousands of years in human history, right? There's a lot of books written on that. But I think it's what you make of what
Mm.
happens to you, right? That I think it helps define you as a character and how you move forward in life.
Yes. Actually, one of my like 5, 6 episodes ago or something, I actually had a whole episode like, does do things really happen for a reason? And it was actually quite a big
Oh,
listening like episode. Like, there was actually a lot of listeners because it is curious. And I'm like, well, at the end of the day, it's we're taking a guess. No one knows for sure either way. So I'm like, if it empowers you to believe, like, okay, there's meaning in this, like, and through how you choose to respond to it too. Like it serves me to think like maybe there could be a purpose in this that I can find and use to grow myself. But I don't personally, I said, I don't think there's a lot of upside to feel like everything's in vain and the world's just out to get you. So it's trying to like, I'm like, but if makes you feel good to think everything randomly happens and it helps you feel stronger and more resilient, believe that. I'm like, we're all just taking a guess, really. That's
and
what I
that's
believe.
it, right?
Yeah.
We each have our own belief systems, whether that's in
Mhm.
ourself or a higher power or politics, whatever it may be. It's about respecting each other's belief systems and what helps you personally, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why I think some people get, and I think it's where you're at in the journey. I think sometimes people try and, I don't know, what's the word, like rainbows and daisy things too soon when they're really in the thick of it. It's like things happen for a reason. You'll be grateful for this one day. It's like, you got to be sensitive to timing and where they're at on their journey too, I think.
No, I completely agree. And that is, when you're going, I mentor a lot of new women who break their neck. It's really important when you're done and you don't need me anymore. My only favor is to ask you to pay it forward to somebody else. So
Mm.
oftentimes when girls break their neck, they don't want to talk about the bowel and bladder and wheelchairs and vans. They want to talk about trying to be a girl and fitting normal again and putting clothes on and how are they going to have sex again and all of that,
Mhm.
right? And so just listening to what they need because everyone is pushing positivity and you'll move forward and they just need someone to listen.
Yeah. Yeah. And that really get like all those little intricacies. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even think about all that, but someone who's lived it. Absolutely. And that's kind of the similar thing. Like, when I speak to siblings who've lost siblings, there's just like little nuances that you can understand through having lived through it. And here's an interesting question. I don't know if you've ever gotten this because, a lot of our messaging and empowerment comes from the
Mhm,
adversity we've been through, our grief, our loss, our
mhm.
unexpected things. And one kid, like when I was speaking, when someone asked me, like, well, it sounds like you've gone on this, incredible journey since your sister died. Like, if you could bring her back right now, would you do it? Like, would you
Oh,
undo everything? And so have you had that question
oh
before?
yeah.
Yeah.
If you could go back with all the work you've done, would you not be paralyzed again? And I had to think about it because a lot of people say it's changed me for the better. I wouldn't change a thing. The reality is, do I want to being paralyzed is really easy. I just sit here. It's not rocket science. Yes, I need help all the time. It's the chronic pain. That's my biggest disability, but people can't see it. I'm being burned alive 24/7 with pins and needles on 80% of my body. I meditate. I have a lot of techniques, but it's not fun. So, yeah, I would love to walk again. And you know what? I mean, maybe people might find that selfish, but I would find a different way. The life would offer me a different path to
Mhm.
help people in a different capacity.
Yeah.
Because even before my accident, I said, I love to help people. I don't know what that means yet. I think
Hmm.
I would have just done it in a different way.
Yeah. I answered something very similar. I'm like, of course, I'd want my sister back here with me, but I would ask for life to exchange it with something else that kind of, I think where I was a little different for you is I was quite a uptight perfectionist kind of
Ah,
girl. So I needed life to kind of rattle
structure.
me a little bit to humble me and give me a bigger life perspective because I hadn't traveled and I had traveled a bit, but not like by the sounds of you. I didn't end up in a Chinese jail or anything. So I had my
I
eyes
wouldn't
quite
recommend
open.
it for any
Yeah.
of you that are like 21 or younger.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's the same kind of thing. So I was curious because I'm sure that question has come up, and it's very Disney-like to be like, I wouldn't change a thing. But I understand what you're saying. That I agree. Life would have, if this was our path where we're meant to show up and contribute and help other people, it would have came around in a different way,
But
I
if I
believe.
live in those what ifs, I don't think
Yeah,
I'd wake up in the morning.
exactly.
I need
Yeah.
something to wake me up in the morning, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, so true. So, I heard throughout your TEDx talk and everything, as we transition into the messaging, because you did say, and I love it, it's like neuroscience meets inspiration, meets practical strategies and all that. Like I'm all into that. I believe you said it's about, is it responsibility?
Yeah, it's
I'm trying
about,
to remember the two
yeah,
others.
re-examining happiness. The basic
Yes.
principle is that stopping trying to be happy. Let's go for happy enough because every time we try to find happiness, it makes us more miserable, right? From
Mhm.
a lot of societal norms around that. And then taking that then naturally leads to redefining what success looks like in your own life. Again, a lot of these norms that are put on us, not just sex and money, but as women or having the family or the white picket fence or the children. I get the children thing all the time because I'm a cat mom and I'm a divorced cat mom. I'm a 40-year-old divorced cat mom. Yes. I mean, when you say it like that, you're like, wow, God, you poor
Yeah.
thing. But I'm happy. I am
Yeah.
happier than I have ever been. And the third one is about 100% responsibility, taking that in your own life. And what does
Mm.
that look like, right? So we all naturally, human nature, the way our brains are wired is that we play the game, or if this could have happened, I would have done this, or it's this person's fault. That's why I'm not farther in life today. What if
Hmm.
we just stop that? And I have very specific steps and questions to get you thinking about that in ways that are meaningful because everyone thinks differently, right? We
Hmm.
are our thoughts. Our
Hmm.
bodies, literally, there's an excellent, I don't know if you heard of Joe Dispenza before,
Hmm. Yeah.
right? Research. I love him. I love all of his work. I just
Yeah.
re-listened to You Are the Placebo again, right?
Yeah.
Essentially, you are your thoughts. You can quite literally be your own placebo, heal your body and your mind, but it's how you believe and what you believe. So it takes a lot of his principles and puts them into practice. But it was William James who was the father of psychology. You know,
Hmm.
very briefly, he was in England and he had all these chronic medical challenges. His dad didn't know what to do. His family was really well off. He sent him over to Harvard to the East Coast. He did not get on very well. He went to the psychiatric ward and realized that these are his people for some reason. And he quit medical school. He went down to the Amazon, almost died, got like typhoid fever, somehow made it, right? This is the 1800s. Somehow, with all of his medical challenges, made it all the way back up to Harvard. And he basically locked himself in the psychiatric ward. And that was the birth of psychology. He ended up writing on these incredible books, and he has 5 children, and he got married. And during this year, when he got back from the Amazon, he said, I'm going to kill myself in 1 year. And I'm going to take 100% responsibility. And there's a whole book on how he does that. And it's going to be nobody's fault. And so he this step by step. That's why in my TED talk, I'm like, sometimes it's moment by moment.
Hmm.
Life just sucks sometimes,
Hmm.
right? Like when you have a hurricane that tears down your home, you're not thinking about the beautiful possibilities of the new windows you could get in 6 months. You're
Hmm.
just like trying to assess the damage in front of you. And it is
Hmm.
okay to, we say that, right? It's okay to not be okay. But I feel like, intellectually we say that, but we don't emotionally internalize that.
Hmm.
Really, it's okay to just let loose sometimes. I'm not always the best example myself, in fairness,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
but yes.
Yeah. No, that is so true because it's very uncomfortable to not, we're sitting with some intense feelings and the human, like we're wired to want to move away from discomfort, but there's zero upside from resisting. Like that's when, like addictions and things happen when we're not trying to, process through the feelings, but more escape them. Or I say, we either like resist, blame, shame, or try and escape. Like they're like the main, I feel like ways at first that we're trying to figure out, is there another way
Yeah.
through this
Uh-huh.
other than through it? And the most powerful way though is little by little through it, as you
And
said,
what
day
you
by
were saying
day.
with blame and all of that, I call that you become an emotional hostage in your own life. I call it the
Mm-hmm.
voluntary emotional hostage situation. Literally, it's
Hmm.
like you are your own FBI hostage negotiator and you're stuck and you're trapped with your own thoughts. How do you get out, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, it's so true. And I think a powerful thing I heard you say was just about like that mental paralysis. Like, like you weren't mentally paralyzed, but like there was a point at which you kind of almost were. Is that
I
right?
was, yeah, when I
Yeah.
was in China today, I was just psychologically I was more paralyzed than I am physically, 100%. I meet more people that are way more paralyzed than I am every day.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it's also we're such a culture of judging. Judging, she is judging each other's clothes and hair and how do you look, and you have the tattoos and so forth, right? I mean, just sometimes like imagine a world where we just had gave each other a little bit more grace and elegance and realize, I mean, even when I eat a food that someone may think is gross, because I eat a lot of weird foods, I put ketchup on, like when I'm having a bad day, like a treat day, because I eat really healthy, I put ketchup on stuff. And some people will be like, "Oh my God, I can't,
I thought
you
I was
did
ready
that,"
for you
or
to say like you put on like cereal or something
"Oh
really
no,
bizarre. So I was like
no,
getting
no,
ready.
no," or like eating frog's legs or something. And people will be really judgy and they'll say, "That's gross." I said, "I appreciate that you don't love it, but I'm not making comments on other people's eating habits,
Yeah.
but that applies to everything in life, but we're so conditioned to think that, right?"
Yes. Yeah. And even more so now because everything is surface level and quick and we're just like, the
Or the worst
highlight
is,
reels.
yeah,
Yeah.
the worst is when people say, they're like, "You're too beautiful to be in a wheelchair." I said, "I'm so how am I supposed to look in a wheelchair?" But that is, right. That is disability representation in the media for decades about
Yeah.
people that are in wheelchairs, and women should be hunched over and baggy clothing, and they've got like their catheters hanging out. I mean, because we don't see it, right? People don't
Yeah.
see it. I'm like, well, yeah, I have a lot of fun. I like to mess with people. People go to Starbucks. I go to Starbucks. They're like, "Can I help you?" Like they think I need help because I'm in a wheelchair. I said, "I do. I need a latte. Tall, extra hot, 3 stevia, double cupped with a sleeve. Thank you." What were you gonna say? No?
As I said, and I love that you love humor too, because I speak about that like even in my blog and in the podcast. Like I remember like my sister, we just left the crematorium, worst absolute moment of our life, and we're all in the car. And then I just remember her boyfriend at the time said something utterly ridiculous, and we all just started laughing. And I know in that moment, like that's exactly what we needed. Like the human spirit needs that relief sometime. We don't have to take even if it's a serious situation we're dealing with, not everything
Yeah.
has to be serious and heavy all the time. There's no way you can be resilient from that energy.
Well, my family knows. I mean, to be fair, I've had last year two friends had urinary tract infections in wheel. No, one urinary tract and one a bone infection. One was 2 days, the other was 3 days. They got an infection, they got septic, and they died. And they were in their mid-30s, and it happened that quickly, right? So, next week I'm jumping out of a perfectly good airplane with the military team to go skydiving. Yes, really excited. I did
Heck yeah.
skydive. I went scuba diving with sharks this year intentionally, zip lining. I was all over the world.
Yeah.
And I wrote letters to my family. I think we should all do that, actually,
Oh,
right? It was really
yeah.
emotional. But we have about our assets and who gets what. But what about the last final feeling? I would love to get a letter from somebody I loved if they passed away tomorrow, right?
Hmm.
Just like have that
Hmm.
ready. But on part of my funeral plans, I said, "Party in the Bahamas, like 50 people, want a barbecue, want giant floaty toys." I'm talking the 30 feet floaty toys with like little lays and hula hoops, 1950s music, because I love oldies. And I want you to
Yes.
laugh and you can cry, but I want you to tell the most ridiculous stories you know about me, because most of my stories are ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm getting that vibe a little bit somehow. But
Yeah,
yeah.
because at the end of my life, I don't want to think about how hard I worked. I want to think about the people's lives I've affected, who's affected mine.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
Mm.
I don't have kids, so hopefully my legacy is everything that I put out there with words and videos in the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And through just being an example, people are watching. And that is the power. Like I actually haven't looked yet, but are you online? Like do you post on social media and all
All the
that?
time, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's power. Like, we can harp on the downside to social media, but that ability to let people into like and just
That's
have
what I use
real
social media
chemistry.
for. I post mine. I check up on my friends. I read really interesting things on LinkedIn. I look at cats and food, but then I don't, I mean, I went through one phase this summer, like of a week of doom scrolling with 20 something year olds in, some tropical location making
Mm.
millions of dollars. I said, no, no, no.
Yeah.
Ali, shut
Not
that
going
off.
down there.
That is bad. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a because there is I really looked into a lot quite after like Nicole died. What I found powerful is like looking at Holocaust survivors and how they like process through. And it's like this difference between happiness and also like purpose. Because there's like the hedonic, like the happiness, which is all about the getting that next thing, that like external validation and success versus like that internal sense of peace that you feel when you know you're living in alignment with who you want to be in the world and your purpose, like
And
that's
the
something.
hope for the future.
Yeah, like it's kind of that to me. That's that shift I think I really made after Nicole died. It was way less, oh, I need to make sure everyone knows about my happiness and success when I was really miserable inside, suffering and needing disorder, just my own worst enemy in here. Once you learn how to manage in here and find your purpose, like
And it's not
that's,
easy, and you're going to fall, and things aren't going to go your way. You bring up the Holocaust. There were some they actually interviewed a lot of studies with Holocaust survivors, and there were a few that really stood out from, they were not the bell curve. They were outliers. Why were they outliers? Because they were the ones that kept the hope alive in the internment camps that they would one day
hmm
get out. They kept a little bit more weight on. They didn't suffer as many medical challenges. And I thought that was fascinating because it's all of how we think. That's why
hmm
I love neuroscience. It started out because I broke my neck, and then the
hmm
psychology and applied neuroscience is fascinating. And I'm like ferocious. I'm obsessed with it. I'll read anything I can get my hands on.
Yes, yes. And I think you are a living example of it is not the things that happen to us that determine
So are
our
you. We're here
happiness.
together
Yeah.
talking about both of us very different
Yes.
stories and lives, but came together with a common purpose of, paying it forward to help other humans, right? There's
hmm
that really interesting argument about altruism in the psychology communities. Altruism, selfish. It's like a counterintuitive principle,
Yeah.
right? You're helping others, but it makes you feel good. So is that
Mhm.
selfish? To which I have personally concluded it doesn't matter because it helps both parties.
Yeah,
It's a symbiotic
exactly.
relationship.
Yeah.
Do we need to have this discussion?
Yeah, that's so true. And I think where our stories also align is this idea. And again, it's like, oh, I made that shift too, because often we hear like, look for the positives and be grateful. And that's all great. Like, sure, like it's better to have an optimistic attitude than not. But I know what really began my healing wasn't by looking for the positives in my sister's death, because I definitely couldn't find any. It was looking for some underlying problems that I saw. So I heard you say, like, gosh, I can't be the only one going through this. That's literally what started my journey with Nicole's charity, particularly the travel safety side of things, because I was like, are we really like the only family that's, lost someone in an accident like this? And then looking at, Thailand have the second deadliest roads in the world, and an Aussie tourist was dying over there every 2 to 3 days. I was like, oh my gosh, these young Aussies that we love traveling. My sister would never want me to tell someone not to travel. But I know that had she known some of these statistics, she would have made a different choice, at least to put a helmet on that day and be a little more mindful. And so it was looking at like, this is a serious problem that I don't think people are that aware of. Like, I want to do something about it. It's kind of
Yeah.
similar with you and like the healthcare and the funding and the advocacy in that sense too. You weren't sitting back
Well,
trying to feel good about that.
no, and people always ask when I do crazy things like scuba diving with sharks, which by the way is not that crazy. More people die from a car accident every day. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah. But I call it a principle. I call it being responsibly irresponsible. I think I'm thinking about naming my second book that title. But there's actually a lot of deep psychology behind that I will do something, but I will research it really well. I will assess
Mhm.
the risks. Am I willing to accept those consequences? What are the consequences? Is it death? Is it a broken leg? It's different for me in a wheelchair with a broken leg. If I'm willing to accept that, then I proceed forward. So
Yeah.
every decision I make, and people are like, wow, I can't believe you did that. I've said it was not without a lot of thought that
Yes. And
I made this
intentional.
decision.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just like traveling, right? About young Aussies going there and making a decision to wear a helmet.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the driver who hit her, he was actually driving on the wrong side of the road illegally. And the Thai police, I mean, you've kind of been involved in justice systems
I've been,
overseas,
yes,
the
yeah, I've been
legal
to Thailand a
systems
bunch.
overseas. Yeah, they like we have video footage of it. They dismissed it. They were trying to charge Jamie with it, and then they tried to charge Nicole where like she wasn't even driving. It was a hot mess, and it was really, and I think I'm proud of my past self. And I always try and encourage people like the power of empathy for me in that moment, because I didn't want to have a biased opinion like all Thai people are bad people. But it really felt like they just didn't seem to care, or they weren't very respectful or kind. But I remember when she came home and we finally started the grieving, because for a while I was just trying to get Nicole and Jamie back home and just keep him out of jail and make sure her body got back safely. I remember researching into like death, like their beliefs about death. And, a lot of them believe in reincarnation and certain things that I just had to think like, okay,
Cultural beliefs about death in different
yeah.
countries are very different. I was just having this conversation an hour ago with my book publisher, actually.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of like I had to like I was like, okay, if I had been brought up there in that kind of way, I probably could have, would have acted in the same way because would have had that same beliefs and our beliefs drive our behavior. So like, trying not to say they're bad people, they're just different and
It's belief systems, right? They are very powerful to change the way we think and then respecting other belief systems because, I think a lot in Western culture, especially, we don't when like a kid's goldfish dies, right? Oh,
Mhm.
it's going to goldfish heaven and there or don't show the kid the goldfish, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're teaching him to be afraid of death and not talk about it from munchkin size, right?
Mhm.
So then as adults, naturally you don't talk. I talk about it to my family and half my family are okay and the other half they're like, no, 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 don't get dark. I said, I'm
Yeah.
not trying to get dark. I'm talking something about something beautiful, but no, they don't want to hear
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that kind of shift again, just any little shift I made in my perspective was so powerful because it gave me that little bit more, like I said,
Yeah.
strength, hope, and also like even if you can't feel positive about the experiences you're going through in that moment, just be more open-minded. I think we're so quick to make assumptions about like, oh, this is terrible, this is going to ruin my life, this is this. And then I love that story about, I'm going to butcher it, but I'll kind of give you the high level. You might have heard it before, like the Chinese farmer, I think, like when
Yeah.
the
I
farmer
know.
breaks his leg and they're like, oh, that's so bad. And then they're knocking on doors for people to go to war and he couldn't go because he'd broken his leg. And the guy's like, oh, that's good. And each time the farmer, I think he's just like, maybe like we don't know for sure how things are all going to unfold. And a big part of it, comes down to how you choose to respond to it. But I think that's another message. I'm like, it's not always about positivity, more curiosity, more trying to co-create with the universe together
That
as
is, I
opposed to.
say, what's one piece of advice you would leave behind to young people? I said, be insatiably curious, right?
Hmm.
We live in 2024. We have this great thing called Google, even AI. Why
Yeah.
are we spending so much time looking at cats? Okay, myself included right now. But right, I mean, I learn every day. I learn something new. So I always read or listen to read a book or listen to a podcast
Mhm.
for 1 hour every day on very, very different topics. And it leads to really interesting conversations, right? But I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of people who don't want to talk about that stuff. So I find I have different friends. I have my
Yeah.
intellectual friends, I have my party friends, I have my political
Yes.
friends, right? So I get what I need from different groups.
Yes. And that's what big thing I'm trying to teach as I work with some younger people and they're trying to have that one best friend that they want everything from. I'm like, that's just
Yeah.
not realistic. It's not going to happen. And,
Or a husband or a wife. Yep, that's
yes.
not going to happen either.
Yes. It's a lot, but oh my gosh, I feel like I could talk to you all damn day in the best of ways, but
I
I
know.
we better at least wrap this one up. But when your new book comes out next year, I absolutely would love to have you back on and give that another big
Absolutely.
push.
That will be a lot
Yes.
of fun.
Do you
I'm
know the
excited.
title yet?
That's the one thing I don't have. I don't know.
Mm.
I need it to be outrageous where you're like, I don't know what that means, but I have to open that book. So
I
yes,
can't wait to see what you
I
come
think
up
that
with
will
there.
come after a couple glasses of wine and a dance party with my mother, who's a little German 78-year-old. I'm sure it'll come then.
Oh, I love that. I love your love for life. So please, sorry, I was going to say please. I was going to say thank you for being an example of just like, I don't know, I'm excited now anytime someone's trying to, I don't know, tell me. I mean, there's a time for venting and letting it out and throwing yourself a pity
Absolutely.
party, but it's not, I like to say you can be a victim in a moment to other people's actions, to your circumstances, but whether you turn victim into victimhood, where it becomes like a
Very
neighborhood
different.
where
Yep,
you
it's a
live,
fine line.
yeah, you just got to make sure you don't do that. So you're just such a fun, beautiful example of that, which is good. It's not like a
I echo,
heaviness.
I echo that sentiment exactly about you, Kate. It has been
Oh.
such an utter delight.
Oh, well, thank you, Ali. So to finish up, make sure where can people connect with you online? Give your socials, your blog. Sounds like a bit of a hoot,
Yeah,
but
my blog is the Quirky Quad, quirkyquad.com. I
okay.
have aliingersoll.com. It's,
Hmm.
I'm sure you can put it on the podcast.
Yep, that'll
And
be
I'm
in the
on
show
LinkedIn.
notes.
It's not very hard to find me. You could actually just put Ali Ingersoll, C6 quadriplegic, and I like pop up. I actually compete with a newscaster who also has my same name in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, no way, in the same town.
Oh yeah, yes, we are. It's like a ferocious competition of like who has more Google images.
I love it. Well, Thank you again. All the best for the last stages of putting that book together. It's
it's a Herculean effort, but we're no strangers to that.
Absolutely. And we'll look forward to having you back on the show next year to give it a shout out.
Thanks, Kate.
Hey there. Thanks for tuning in to the show. Are you looking for an inspiring speaker for your next event, conference, or company meeting? Check out my website, kategladden.com, where you can learn more about my impactful keynote presentations that empower people to change the way they respond to adversity. Less complaining, less drama, and less stress, and more recognizing, reflecting, and redirecting. That is the key to resilience, and I'd love to share it at your next event. Learn more at kategladden.com.